Congressman, welcome to the show.
Well, it's great to be with you, Alfonso. I really look forward to having this conversation.
Congressman, as many Americans, I am outraged. Outraged that the IRS, that has so much information about us, is not going after targeting conservative groups, apparently, just because they're conservative. And initially they were saying, well, it's just a few employees. But how big is this?
This is a terrible abuse. We don't know yet how big it is, but it seems to be fairly extensive. The IRS is the most powerful agency in our federal government because it interacts with every single American, and the power to tax is the power to destroy. And so we cannot tolerate any abuse, any type of discrimination like this. In fact, we expect the IRS to administer the law fairly and impartially. And so I can tell you this was a blatant abuse, a violation of First Amendment rights. And secondly, the IRS has continued to evade and continue to be misleading in their response to Congress on this. And so we're going to get to the bottom of it. Heads are going to roll in this, and we're not going to tolerate this type of activity.
And I think it would be very naive to think that these individuals acted alone and their superiors, as high as the then commissioner or even the acting commissioner that now resigned, didn't know, correct?
That's correct. I am very skeptical that these lower-level employees made these kinds of decisions. We do know that there were people higher up in the IRS who were aware of the problem for 18 months and took very few steps to try to correct it. This is deeply troubling, and so the point of the investigation now is to find out who knew this, how high up does it go? Does it go all the way up to the commissioner or acting commissioner of the IRS, the chief counsel at the IRS? Did somebody at Treasury know this? And or what about the White House? And so we need answers to these questions.
Well, at this point, this is what concerns me. And, you know, we don't know if there's any criminal responsibility at the White House level, but the president and some key Democrats in the Senate kept complaining about these groups. Senator Max Baucus sent a letter saying that there should be more oversight of these groups. Senator Schumer as well, along with other Democratic senators. You know, be careful what you ask for. I wonder if Senator Rubio's right when he says that Obama has created this culture of intimidation that led the IRS and officials in the IRS to target these groups.
Well, that's what we're concerned about. Is there a culture of intimidation or a culture of discrimination at the IRS? And I would say that this culture of rot needs to be rooted out, and that's what we're going to do with the congressional investigation. I was thinking about this earlier today, and we have to look from the very bottom of the IRS all the way up to the top to examine these practices, to hold those who perpetrated the abuse to the full accounting under the law, and we won't stop until we get to the bottom of it.
You know, the president immediately distanced himself from this, and today he said that, you know, his main concern is just fixing the problem, and he said the process began yesterday with the resignation of the acting commissioner, but we learned that the acting commissioner was already on his way out, correct?
That's correct.
So is that enough from the White House? You know, let's have some hearings, and, you know, I'm not responsible. The IRS is an autonomous organization. We have to just fix the problem. Don't you think the president should assume more responsibility over what's happening?
I think there's no question about it. The president needs to assume full responsibility, and I welcome the fact that he's instructed the Justice Department to take a look at this, but it's certainly not going to stop our congressional investigation. And it's my hope that the president will cooperate fully with us in that effort. The American people deserve to be treated fairly. They deserve to be treated fairly under the law because we are a nation of laws, and they expect that the IRS will basically administer tax law in a very fair way. And if Americans start to lose trust in our governmental institutions, this is a deeply problematic development. And so we have to restore trust to the IRS. But
Going back to the president, because, again, he keeps saying, well, my main concern is fixing the problem. I had nothing to do with this. But now it turns out that his counsel, the White House counsel, was informed about the IRS probe in late April. And he says, the president, that he was informed last Friday through media reports. I mean, what does this say about the president?
Well, I don't buy the fact that he didn't know about this and only found out through media reports. That just doesn't pass the smell test. We have questions about whether the chief counsel at the IRS knew about this and what did he know, because it's very clear from the record that lawyers working under the chief counsel were well aware of the problem, and while steps were not being taken to fix it. And so I would hold the chief counsel at the IRS certainly responsible in this abuse, and that chief counsel is a political appointee by the president. He is directly accountable to chief counsel at Treasury, and of course there's accountability to the Secretary of Treasury and all the way up to the presidency. So we're going to try to track all this and get a very precise timeline of who knew what and when.
Well, Congressman, thank you so much for your work. You keep to understanding what exactly happened. I just have a feeling that this is just starting.
Well, I think you're right. It is just starting, and the hearing tomorrow will be basically a very basic starting point. We're going to have some basic questions, and then we'll launch into much more detail in this investigation. But we will not stop until we get the facts on the table.
Congressman, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.